What's up guys, Woody here, back with another Mythgard video. It's another new to Mythgard video and it's the next one in our kind of mini, in-depth guide to different colours. And today we're looking at yellow. So we already looked at green, we already looked at blue, and now we're looking at yellow. And yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing in this video, I suppose. If this is the first video you found or first video you've seen from me, these new to Mythgard videos are designed obviously for new players. We kind of really, and these ones here, we're diving really into the meat of each colour, really. What is each colour really trying to do? Now, Mythgard's wonderful in terms of every colour has versatility, but behind the closed door of a set colour, they all have their kind of slight linearity. Is that even a word, linearity? But we'll stick with it because it sounds impressive, where they're trying to do something, okay? And yellow mostly build around control. That's not always the case. There are other elements to yellow as well, but definitely for beginner players trying to get your head around what does yellow do in Mythgard, the best way to see it is if you want to add some control to your deck, yellow's the colour you kind of want to go to, and that, like I said, this is trying to break it down for new players. So what we do in these videos, what we're doing in this video is going through the kind of general archetype of yellow. We're going through some tribal synergy that yellow offers, which we do in each video, and then looking at some cards in depth. And then looking at 3 different decks, 3 contrasting decks, all to do something different, something spicy with a little bit of yellow. So, as I said, yellow is mostly control, but it's not just control, okay? Now, it has control in terms of you have lots of control over lots of minions. You have cards like Misanthropia, which I'll show you in a bit later in this video, and that's a card that allows you to pretty much clear the whole board. You have straight up spot removal. You have cards that suppress cards. You have cards that stun cards. You have blockers. You have card draw. Everything is kind of allowing you to control the game. You have cards with deadly. That basically means like it swings into any other minion. If it does combat damage to it, it just kills it. You also have quite a lot of life gain in yellow. Like purple and yellow have some really nice life gain. And this basically allows, sorry, red as well with life tap. But yellow's allows you to, there are cards that combo that kind of allow you to draw cards and gain life at the same time, and that can be very strong, especially going in the long game. It can just mean your opponent's kind of really starting to burn themselves out, trying to kill you, and just constantly giving yourself life back, which is a really, really strong mechanic in Mythgard. You also have tokens. Yellow probably has the most tokens in a game. What I mean by tokens, you have There's an enchantment called like Serpent Den, which basically just pops a 1/1 serpent, and that's a token that spawns every single turn. You have other ones that then play into tokens, so when minions die, you gain life, or your enemy takes damage, and so you have kind of token synergy going on. And then you kind of finish up with its artifacts. Like where I said last video, blue has some really nice enchantments. Trust me, yellow's got some very nice enchantments, which you're going to go on to. But it also has some very nice artifacts. Some of the best artifacts probably in the game. And unfortunately, at the moment, Fires of Creation, which is the artifact pathway, is a little bit slow in the current meta, or in the old meta. The new ranked season isn't out yet. So you didn't see as much as I would have liked to have seen it, or as much as I would like to have played it, because there's lots of decks that just played underneath it. But I feel like if there's a meta that comes around where Fires of Creation feels strong and viable to compete, then yellow artifacts will definitely be in there, because that controlling element of the artifacts makes them super, super good. But yeah, that's kind of really the aim of yellow. That's what yellow brings to the table in a quick kind of run through. Now, every video we go through tribes. Now in green, we spoke about witches and we spoke about some canines. In blue, we spoke about canines, and we also spoke about the strongest tribe in the game, which is Valkyries. Now, yellow is best seen as like supporting tribes. Now, it has a few tribal synergy out there, but there isn't like a mono yellow synergy like tribe that you want to run with. The only one you could say is spiders, but there just isn't enough spiders in the game to make it a viable like tribal, especially mono, because one of the best spider cards in the game relies on you playing more colours, okay? So kind of synergy you have soldier synergy. There's not tons of soldiers here, but there's a few cards that allow you to, like this one here, give a minion 1/1 and it's now a soldier. So being able to turn it into a soldier is great, but there aren't really many cards that benefit from being soldiers, okay? There's a few cards that work well with soldiers, or have, like, there's soldier cards over here that work with soldiers, and yeah, but if you compare it to someone like Valks, where minions die, every Valkyrie dies buffed by 1, or all Valkyries +1. There isn't really that soldier synergy going on here, and that's a bit of a shame. But it's definitely something that they can build into. Like future expansions, I'm kind of hoping that soldiers become a bit more of a viable tribe. I mean, tribes are never going to be like tier 1. But spicing a tribe up could be tier 1. For example, Valkyries aren't tier 1, but putting Valkyries like yellow, which is a deck we're going to look at later on, makes them a lot more powerful. And I've seen people running that deck in Champion. So it's not tier 1, but it's probably tier 2 deck. Like Valkyrie, Valkyries with a splash of yellow is pretty strong. You also, like I said, you have spider synergy. Now there isn't a ton of spiders here, okay? If we type in spiders down here, there really isn't, if I can spell spider, a ton. These are all the spiders we have, okay? But we have, so this is a mutant spider. The one I was about is gem cut spider. Is created with +2 strength and health. So basically you play a tri-colored deck. You've got 3 different colored gems in your mana bar. You play this, comes out at 6/6, which is pretty strong if you can get it out normally turn 4, because obviously if you need 3 colors in your mana bar, 2 of them have to be yellow, it will be a turn 4 card. And then this is a spider enchantment, and then you have your tangle skin, which is your spider queen, shall we say. So spiders are very much, they're a tribe that you can sprinkle in. I think it's called a deck down under, or spiders and serpents. It's basically snakes and spiders. You have lots of serpents and snakes in yellow as well. Makes it a little bit more viable. But yeah, so spiders are the other kind of tribe. And then you have a very little splash of canine. Stuff like pack mentality, which turn a minion into a canine, and it has +2/+2 for each adjacent minion. Now, if you go back to the blue and green, we've already looked at the ones that have +1/+1 for each adjacent canine minion anyway. You plus this and you add this into it, it's a canine +2. All of a sudden, it's now +3/+3 for adjacent minion. It's not like that makes it sound like a super strong crazy card. It's not at all, but it's just adding a little bit more to that support of canine synergy, and that's really as far as it goes with yellow tribes. So what we're going to do now is let's jump into some cards. Now the reason I'm going to go through these cards, I've got about 15 cards to look at, is we'll go through ones that I think are very strong that you see in most yellow decks. Some auto includes, but cards that just genuinely you want to be playing around with if you're new to the game. I'm going to kick straight off with this one drop here, Clay Effigy. Now, I overlooked this card straight away. When I first started playing the game, create a 0/1 statue in any player's unoccupied lane and draw a card. Now this can be great for various reasons. So it has no attack, and it has 1 health. You get to draw a card by playing it, okay? So it's almost a free play, effectively. But what makes it good is it actually is in any players. So, yes, you do play at your side as a blocker. So if they haven't got overrun on their minion, you throw this down, it blocks the lane. But also, let's say they've got a freaky side card you can't deal with, and they've got 1 free lane next to it. You play this in that free lane next to freaky sidecar on their side, which is the blue minion that gives rush. All of a sudden, the Clay Effigy now gets rush. If they don't run in power as their power, then that lane's now occupied. It's taken up by Clay Effigy. So it's not a super powerful card, but a card that is effectively a free play, allows you to draw a card. It's definitely not a bad card, and it's definitely a card that, with the chump blocking that it kind of offers as well, is definitely good in most control decks. Now, the next card we're going to look at is definitely auto include. I see it in every yellow deck. I see it in every yellow duo deck. I see it in every yellow tricolour deck. Like, Maze is just such a good card. So it's a defender, meaning it can't attack unless you have a special artifact out for it. But anyway, it's a defender. It's a mobile. You can't move it. But what happens is it comes out of free life. At the start of every turn, it goes up by 1. Sap basically means you don't damage it by 3, in terms of you're not damaging it down by 3. You're just removing 3 health. So you can't damage it and then heal it back up to 3 or 4 health. It just means that you're sapping it down to... So you'd wait 1 turn, it'll go to 0/4. You do the ability, it'll then go down to 0/1, and then the following turn it got to 0/2. You couldn't heal it back. But you get to draw a card. This is a very good 1-drop. One of the best 1-drops in the game, because it's card draw. There's very few decks can deal with this straight away. Very few decks can answer this card straight away. They can slow it down, but they can't really get rid of it straight away. And you normally always get 1 card draw off this card, making it a very strong card. And that's why it's always almost 3 or 4 ran in every yellow deck that I know of. It's super strong. It's very strong. Now next we're going to look at a yellow enchantment. The Many Fools. The Many Fools. Occupy minion has regen 2, which is pretty nice. But when a minion is created in this lane, gain 2 life. Now, regen 2 means, let's say you take 2 damage that turn. It then regens back that life, and it gains 2 health back at the end of the turn. You also, this is the life gain I was on about. Getting this out on curve, and if they have no enchantment tech to deal with it. This, honestly, I've seen games where this has got... I play against Semper quite a lot, and Semper plays a lot of yellow. He's had games where he's played this, and this card's honestly probably got him around 14 to 16 life. Like, that is insanely good in the control deck. It means he's really surviving that late game, combined with other life tab he's got as well. I've played games where Semper has probably gained back between 20 and 30 life in a game with all the combination of yellow, meaning that rush decks can really struggle to get through you because they burn out after a time, and you've got all this life gains keep coming. So the Many Fools is a card that I wouldn't say it's auto-include in yellow, but I would say definitely early on. It's a cheap card to encraft because it's a common. And sprinkling 2 or 3 of these in your deck is not going to do anything wrong. So definitely, if you haven't got a big collection, this is a card you want to be checking out and throwing into your deck. Next up, we're going to look at a card that a lot of people were questioning on. I was very vocal about how much I don't like the card. They have recently changed it. They nerfed it, and it's a very nice nerf. It makes the card a bit more balanced now. It's still a very strong card, but it's a bit more balanced now, and that is Volition. So Volition, give a friendly minion a standard action, and the minion is stunned after attacking until the end of your turn. Now, this didn't used to stun. This used to cost 3 mana, or used to just cost 2 mana. It used to cost this, and it didn't used to stun. So you basically, the reason the stun's so important is people used to play 2 or 3 of these each turn. Now, if you get a minion out that's like 14/14, which a Boneyard Abomination can easily get to, 14/14. Okay, it hasn't got rush. You play 1 Volition on it, it swings 14/14 to the face. You play another Volition on it, it swings another 14 to the face. That's 28 damage. You play another one on it, all of a sudden you've just done 42 damage to the face for playing 3 of these cards. And it was very, very hard to play against. It was very hard to counter. If they had a free lane, you almost auto lost if it got to a late game. So yeah, they nerfed it originally to make it 3 mana with 1 yellow gem. It didn't work. It was still too powerful. They've now given it stun, which makes it a lot better. It means that this is for lethal. This sets up your lethal, okay? Is it auto-include? Not really. It completely depends on the deck you're running. If you're running more of a control deck that hasn't got huge... if you haven't got your big minions, I mean, I'd still probably run... You're probably still running 1 or 2 of these in your deck. It all depends. The reason I say it's not auto-include is if you're running something like artifacts, or if you're running... maybe enchantments, maybe you don't run this. Maybe you don't run Volition. Whereas something like Maze that I say is auto-include will always be in your yellow deck. But Volition is definitely a card that is close to auto-include. It's very powerful. It basically means if you put a Sapo down that removes the minion straight in front of it when it plays, and it comes out for a 10/10, say, you can play this on the Sapo and it swings straight away. You basically got a minion for 10 rush to the face. But you would need 9 mana and 4 yellow gems to play that card. So it's an expensive play. But anyway, Volition is a very, very strong card that definitely want to play around with. I don't think it gets nerfed anymore. I think this is perfectly fine with the nerf they've done with it. But yeah, that's it's a strong card that you should definitely play around with. Next up, we're going to go, we already looked at it once, Gem Card Spider. Definitely not auto-include. This very depends on the card you're running. Sorry, deck you're running. If you're running a tri-color deck with yellow, I would say definitely auto-include it. It's a 6/6 that comes out for 3 mana. It's very strong. If you're being ballsy and running a quad color deck, then why the hell would you run this? Yes, it's 2 yellow gems, but it's an 8/8 for 3 mana. An 8/8. That's nuts. Yeah, so it's a cool. I mean, I think the artwork's a little bit disgusting. I don't like spiders anyway. But it's a good card in tri-color decks. It's a nice little. I like to see more spider synergy with it later on. More spider synergy with this kind of promoting the tri-color decks. And yeah, I think it's a fun, interesting card that if you play in tri-color, you're definitely including this card straight up. No question about it. Okay. Now we're going to move on to Meso Libre. Used to be the most powerful, probably the strongest common card in the game. One tiny little nerf to it made it still very good, but not nearly as powerful as it used to be. So Meso Libre used to be 3 power, 4 health, which meant it outplayed a lot of cards. Now what's so good about this card is its awaken ability. When you play this card, or when you play this minion, the minion in the opposite lane is stunned until the end of its next turn. So it's pretty strong. You can put it down there, it can stun cards. So you can you can stop ramp going with if you play this against the Collarbock, the 1/1 that we saw in green that ramps up mana every time it moves. This can stop the mana ramp. This can stop big minions swinging. If you haven't got an answer for a big minion, they've got a big 10/10 on the board. Yeah, you might play this opposite an Aiku, so it gets defender. But however, you stun the Aiku for 1 turn, meaning they can't swing with it. Maybe you draw into something to get rid of that Aiku. So it slows it down. It's a very control-heavy card, and that's why it's very good. If you're running control decks, this is an auto-include card, as simple as that. Playing it on curve, really, like I said, it stalls your opponent out, especially if you're playing against something like red-orange, which can be very quick and very aggressive. This will slow it down. This will stop a rush minion being a bit more powerful. It's got 3/3, so even as like a Trapezis isn't going to trade into it. They're going to need to play a Trapezis and an Infuse on it. They're going to have to waste up, or not waste up, but spend up the 3 mana to play into it. So it's a good card. It's a good stalling card. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still a very good stalling card. It's nice in control decks, and it definitely fits in pretty much any control deck with yellow that you're going to want to run. And then I'm going to go to one of the best artifacts in the game, and that is Satellite. Satellite is an artifact that comes out. So durability on artifacts, as you know, it kind of go in conjunction with your life. They don't protect you, so this doesn't add 9 to your life. But let's say you got 21 life and you got 9 artifact durability on Satellite. If you take 4 damage, you're going to go down to 17 life, and this is going to go down to 5 durability. That's the way they work. So it comes out with 2 charges. You can spend 2 charges in the same turn, because blue means you can do it the same time you play it. Orange is it's your turn ability, or that card's ability for that turn. Give a minion suppressed until the end of your next turn. Now, suppressed, please, new players, note and remember, suppressed is not stunned. If you play this on a Meso Libre, it's not going to stun it. What it does is it removes any text from that card, okay? So, for example, if you played it on something like Security Phalanx, it wouldn't have the Alpha Strike, okay? So it'd be a 4/2 card with no Alpha Strike, meaning that if you could do 2 damage to it, you would kill it. You wouldn't have to worry about the Alpha Strike, okay? So that's what it does. Suppressed removes text from a card. It doesn't stun it. So that's what you need to remember for that one, okay? So something like Boneyard Abomination, that is a card that comes out for +1/+1 for every minion in all graveyards. If that's suppressed, that card instantly dies, because its text is 1/1 for minions in graveyards. It now can't have that ability, meaning it can't have any health, meaning it straight up dies, okay? So this is one counter to that. If they don't kill you with Boneyard Abomination 1 turn, play this, it's wiped straight off the board, okay? It's a very, very good artifact. It hasn't got a huge amount of durability, but it's a very, very good artifact, and you gain 1 charge at the start of each turn. Now moving on to another enchantment, Serpent Den. Serpent Den is what I was talking about earlier with the tokens. So Serpent Den is an enchantment that comes out, and when it comes out, it creates a 1/1 Temple Snake in this lane. If it's unoccupied at the start of your turn, it creates another 1/1 Temple Snake. Now, 1/1 Temple Snakes are literally these cards here. Now, this card, it's not like super powerful. It's not auto-include, but it's definitely control, because what it is if they haven't got Overrun, if they haven't got the trample effect from Magic the Gathering, the Overrun that does any damage not negated goes through to the opponent, then these are just chump blockers. They're just great chump blockers, okay? Also, you play this, you move the card over. Now, because it's unoccupied, you'll get another one. So if you have 2 of these on the board, I've seen games where they've had five of these Temple Snakes out. And if you play it with an artifact called Alarma Ring, one we're going to look at in a minute, all of a sudden these are now 2/2. So don't be fooled by how much chip damage these guys can have. They can be strong, and they can be very annoying to deal with. They can really slow down some decks, especially like rush minions or rush decks that have to constantly trade into a 1/1 or swing into a 1/1 just to get rid of it, to then clear a lane again. They can be pretty good like enchantments in the right deck, and they're definitely ones, again, they're cheap because they're uncommons. Ones I recommend you play around with. You'll see them a lot. Like I said, there's a Serpents and Spiders deck, which I think is called like a deck from down under, because it's from Australia, Snakes and Spiders. And it's a fun deck. It's not too expensive to craft. It's a fun deck to play around with, and it builds on the fact that you get spiders out and you get lots of snakes out, and they buff them all with Alarm Ring and do lots of damage with it. It's quite a little fun deck to play around with. Next up, we're going to be moving on to Wonder Drug, one of the best yellows in the game, and definitely an auto include. So this one here is 3 mana, 2 yellow gems. Gain 4 life and draw a card. If you have 8 or less life, double this effect, so you gain 8 life and you draw 2 cards. That is super, super powerful. You're down to 4 life. You play this, you go back up to 12 life, and you draw 2 cards, okay? By the time you're normally going down to 4 life, you're normally going to be around turn 6, turn 7 maybe turn 8, maybe later. Meaning you can play this card, draw cards, and then that maybe gives you burn targets from the card you draw. Maybe gives you a playability of the cards you draw. This card is super, super powerful. There are some decks where you almost ignore the bottom one here, okay? For example, in yellow-green, a deck we're going to look at later on, yellow-green's all about just trying to find the right cards to get your big combo deck off. It's a combo deck. It's an OTK deck. You're looking to win in one big turn. Now, because you're trying to find those cards, you don't worry about trying to get the 8 life and go grind down the stat. You just gain the 4 life. You're more cared about drawing the cards, okay? It's a very powerful card there. Vice versa, you're playing against rush decks. This card is super strong. Playing against rush decks that, remember, rush decks are very good early game, but they kind of plateau out around mid to late game. And if they keep going you down to 4 life, you play this, you're back up to 12 life. That's another 8 damage they've got to do. But you play another one of these, they're going to keep burning themselves out. All this time you're building mana by burning cards, and you're getting into that late game where the rush decks don't want to go. Like, I've not seen a yellow deck that hasn't run at least 1 Wonder Drug. I run almost 2 Wonder Drugs in every yellow deck I run. And it's definitely a card, if you have rare yellows to craft, this is one I would say, go craft this right now. Over Cleophagy, the one we looked at the beginning. Wonder Drug is the rare card you probably want for now. It's a card you will not regret crafting. It's super, super, super strong. Yeah, it's one of the best yellows in my opinion. Okay. Now moving on, we're going to go to Alarm Ring, the one I mentioned we're going to talk about. This is another artifact that has 12 durability this time, rather than the 9 durability offered to you by Satellite. And this is all minions you have 1/1. So let's go back to our Serpent Den. Okay, so our Serpent Den here, all of a sudden now these are 2/2s. Every turn we're popping a 2/2. We've got 2 of these on the board. Our board is being covered with 2/2s. Let's say we're getting really ballsy and we have got 2 Alarm Rings out. All of a sudden our snakes are free. If they haven't got the overrun, if they haven't got the big minions to get past us and stay alive, this is just going to completely shut down their deck. Anything they play is going to be blocked by our Alarm Ring buffs, by their stacks, and it can be very frustrating to play against. Trust me, I've played against decks that do this, and it can be very, very frustrating. But yeah, is this as so? If you've got rare wild cards to craft that are yellow, what do you craft? Alarm Ring or Wonder Drug? Wonder Drug is the more universal friendly card. You'll be playing this in almost every yellow deck. You may not be playing this in every yellow deck. Most decks you'll definitely be sprinkling a little Alarm Ring because it's just a very good card. I mean, buffing your minions is fine. The issue, it's not the best card, is it's very slow. This potentially saves you losing the game. Does Alarm Ring potentially save you losing the game? Not really, because it's potentially a turn where you can't play a minion because it's 4 mana to get out. So that's what you need to weigh up, okay? But still, it's a very, very strong card. Now, another card, next card we're going to look at, which is definitely an auto-include card, is in every yellow deck, normally 2 copies, is Misanthropia. Misanthropia is possibly one of the best, probably the best board, it is the best board clear in the game, simple as that. It's slower than, say, something like Thunderclap. So remember Thunderclap, the blue card we looked at, where it's deal 2 damage to all enemy minions and 2 damage to opponent. And then you had Cataclysm, which was deal 5 damage to all minions and opponents, including yours. Now, Misanthropia is the same. It does all minions, so it's kind of damaging yourself as well as it's damaging, damage your own minions, as well as it's damaging your opponents. But Blight Free, what it does is Blight Free is a status, it's not a damage. So please, new players, get your head around this early doors. If a minion is a 6/6 and it has Blight Free, it basically means at the start of its turn, it will go down to a 3/3. Now, if you try to heal that minion to 3, it will do nothing. It's a status. Its new status is 3/3. It's not been damaged by 3. It's a status set. It's now gone down to 3/3. It can't get any higher than that. Simple as that. If it swings into saying it goes to a 3/1, you can heal it because its status is 3/3. You can heal it back up to 2. There'll be no point because the following turn, with a 3 Blight ticking over again, it would just die. Blight ticks over every turn on minions that are affected with Blight. And you know they're affected with Blight because they have like a green glow to them. This is a super strong card. It can wipe massive amounts of minions off the board. It can go complete board clear. It's a kind of get out of jail card. It's a very, very good card. It's the reason it's in every single yellow deck. Because if shit hits the fan and you really need to get out of trouble, you play Misanthropy and you normally save yourself a little bit, okay? Obviously on something like an IQ, the 10-10 we looked at before from green, it will take 4 turns for that to die without any combat damage, because it will go down to a 7-7, it will go down to a 4-4, it will go down to a 1-1, then it will die. So it's a slower play, but still, it's probably the best board removal in the game. It's very, very strong. Next up, we're going to go to Scourge of Serpents. Scourge of Serpents is a card, again, I overlooked it for a long time. This card is nuts. This card is super good. They did nerf it recently by upping it to 4 mana. I still think it's a super playable card. I still think, so this is where we're getting into Mythic territory now, okay? So if you've got 1 yellow Mythic sat in your library, what Mythic do you craft? Not Scourge of Serpents to start with, okay? Definitely not Scourge of Serpents. This is a super strong card. Now, the way it works is, let's say your minion has 4 minions on the board and you have no minions on the board, okay? You play Scourge of Serpents, you're going to get a Striking Viper, which is an Alpha Strike 2/2 snake opposite every single one of your opponent's minions. Now, that might be... Now, because Alpha Strike does damage first, it's like first strike in Magic. It basically means if their minions are around 2 drop, like 2 healths, maybe 3 healths, then you're potentially going to trade them for free, and the Striking Viper is going to stay on the board. If not, they can just be a turn where it stalls them out. If they haven't got the overrun, it's a turn where they now need to really slow it down. Against rush decks, there's not many rush minions that have more than... I don't think there's any rush minions, actually, that don't get given rush afterwards, that have more than 2 health. So this completely can shut down rush decks. Like, they have Trapezes out, they have Wyverns out, you play this, they're literally, your snakes are eating their rush minions for free. It's a very, very strong card. Against someone like green, where they've got big overrun minions, these big short stag, these IQs coming out, maybe it's not the best card to play, but still, it's chipping away damage at them. You need to weigh up at the time what is the best option for that. But in terms of, if you've got Mythic Wild cards to craft, this is not your go-to craft card, but if you pull it, definitely put it in your deck. It's a lot of fun to play around with, okay? Now we're going to go on to Zolea. Zolea, again, I wouldn't say is your go-to first craft for blue Mythic. Zolea's good. I've done a video where I've done 10 overrated cards, and I put Zolea as a little bit overrated. I'll explain why I think that. So Zolea is a card that comes out with 1 charge, and she's Lurker, meaning you play next to another minion, they have to swing into the other minion right before they can swing into Zolea. She's kind of protected. Okay? Now, you gain a charge every time you give another minion Blight 1. Now, Blight 1 is good because you're ticking away at them, but it's also quite slow. So if you give again, if you're playing against green and you give a short stag who's got 8/8 Blight, then it's going to go to 7/7. It's going to take 8 turns for it to die. Yes, you can do combat damage into it, and it speeds up the process. Give another minion +3/+0. That's pretty good. That can help you go for lethal. That can definitely help you remove a minion. It can definitely help you kind of get rid of a big threat. And then the big one here, which I'll be honest, I have only ever seen out of my nearly 350 hours of playing the game, I've seen this go once, and it's at the end of your opponent's turn, they lose 5 life. You need to get the 6 charge for that. You need to be able to stick her around for 5 turns. She only has 1 damage and 5 health. She's very hard to get that ability off, but she's not a bad... I mean, here it is. If you pull Zolea from a pack, put her in your deck. Why wouldn't you run her? I wouldn't go out and craft her. There are a lot of... I'd even probably craft Scourge over Zolea first, if I'm being honest. Some people will definitely disagree with that. I play this card, and too often she just gets removed. She comes down, I give 1 Blight, and yeah, there's normally such a slow process with the 1 Blight, and she's not a bad card. She's just not... There are other better yellow mythics out there, for sure. Next up, we're going to look at Godsbane Transport. Now, again, another card I hugely overlooked when playing this game. It's very powerful. This card is very, very good. Now, it's best seen as an 8 mana card, not a 6 mana card, and that's because of the ability. So this card comes down 2 strength, 10 health. So it's not hugely threatening on the strength, but adjacent soldier minions have armor 2. So these guys have armor 2 because they're adjacent, okay? And you can spend 2 mana and swing the same turn because it's a blue arrow to create 2 of these guys, these 2/2s. Now think about our alarm rings. If our alarm rings out, this is a free 11 and these guys are free 3s. Every turn you can just create another free 3 if alarm rings out, or another 2/2. Okay, these guys can't swing the same turn. You create them, they don't have rush. But still, it's a very controlled heavy card in terms of you're taking up 3 lanes that they need to deal with. If they don't deal with it and you've got Alarm Ring out, then you're just going to be swinging through, okay? They have armor too as well. So these guys, although they're 2-2, they need to be doing 4 damage to them. If they've got, if you've got Alarm Ring out, they need to be doing 5 damage to get rid of these minions. You can move them over and pop another 2 next turn for just 2 mana. And all of a sudden, you're taking up 5 lanes to block the board. Adjacent ones to this have armor, so they need to take 4 or 5 damage depending on Alarm Ring being out. These guys have lost their armor, but they're still chump blockers. It's a very good card to can basically force your opponent to be like, I can't get past this. This saves your card draw. This saves you playing cards. And that's where yellow's good, is kind of keeping cards in hand, having those options, controlling your opponent. And yeah, it's a very good card. I overlooked it. Semper and Tunestar, both TRS teammates, were really on about how good the card is. I played it recently. I played it more now. It's best seen as an 8-drop card, but it's super, super powerful. It's a very, very good card. Now coming close to the end, we've only got 2 more cards to look at now. First one is twins. Now there are 2 twins. There are twin Blanc, I think it's just Blanc, and twin Juna, okay? Now they basically, we can do this one here because they're both popped up here. You can see both. So when you play one twin, you get the awakened ability. You add the other twin. You add the other twin to your hand for free. 0 mana. So you basically can play a 4-5 and a 5-4 in the same turn. On turn 6, as long as you've got the 3 yellow gems. Now, has overrun and regen free while the other twin is in play. So you get these both out. If they don't deal with them straight away, you swing next turn and they still have the overrun and they have the regen free. These cards are very good. They're not amazing. Although they're not amazing, they are very, very good. They often get dealt with quite easy, and because the other one comes out of Ephemeral, if they're playing green, they can just deport it back to your hand and it kills it. If they're playing blue, they're possibly running Valkyrie and Force, so they can bump it back to your hand, it kills it. Anything that bumps it back to the hand, or even they can play Temptation to steal it because it's under 5 mana, swing at you, and then it will just die. So there are ways to counter the second twin, especially with the Ephemeral key tag or keyword, but they're still very strong. Side note, something to recognise here, if you're playing a yellow mirror match, okay, and they remove your twin Juna, if they've got a twin Juna on the board, this works, okay, because it's in play. So this works off your opponent's play. That's something I didn't realise before. Obviously, that will work vice versa for them as well. But yeah, it will work if your opponents have got the twins out as well. They're very good cards. In terms of crafting yellow mythics, they are your second craft mythics. If you've got a yellow mythic wildcard, the next card I'm going to show you is what I would say craft that one. These are, if you've already got Sapo, then go for twin. Either one, it doesn't matter. Do you need both? Yeah, I mean, these cards are about as close to an auto-include mythic as you'll get. In terms of every time I play yellow, twins are always in the deck. Every time I build a yellow deck, twins are always in the deck. They're very, very strong. And the final card we're going to look at is Sapo the Devourer. This again is an auto-include yellow mythic. If you have a yellow mythic wildcard sat in that library of yours, go and craft Sapo the Devourer. Very, very strong card. So he's warded already. So only damage you can take is combat damage. They can't destroy him. They can't do 5 damage to him. They can't ping him with anything. He is just completely warded. Yes, he can get blight, but it can't be pinged with anything outside of combat damage. Now, when he awakens, he destroys an enemy minion in the opposite lane and for any minions in adjacent lane. So be mindful of that. He gets +2/+2 for each minion destroying that way. So just putting him down, he's straight up spot removal. He removes the minion straight. They've got a short stag on the board. You play Sapo, it will kill that short stag straight away, and he will buff to an 8/8. That is an insanely big play. It's huge, okay? He hasn't got rush or anything. Obviously, that would be completely broken. But yeah, he's a very, very, very powerful card, okay? Sometimes, if you've got cards that got blight and they're going to die anyway, sometimes playing this next to cards blight is good because it buffs it up even higher because you're killing your own minions. Or vice versa, you might have Serpent Dens out, your little 1/1s that you know are going to pop up next turn anyway, where you're getting a free 2/2 on a minion for a 1/1 trade. It's going to come back next turn anyway. So you're getting the better value of Serpent Dens. So it's a very good card. Like I said, this is your go-to craft for Mythic. This will go in every yellow deck you run. It's an expensive card, but yellow, with the life gain it has, with the control it has, with the late game, with the kind of stalling presence it has with stuns, with chump blockers, it's very easy to get to the turn where you're going to be playing Sappos, okay? And when this card comes out, deal with that. An 8/8, normally minimum 8/8 card that's got warded. It's very, very, very strong. But anyway, guys, that's the cards I ran through. That kind of should give you an idea about what cards I think are strong and all that. I didn't go through every single one of them because that would just take forever. There are cards I kind of skimmed over. There are cards I would like to show you, but again, I don't want to keep this video going on forever. What we're going to do now is going to jump over to the decks, and we'll look at 3 contrasting decks from yellow, and that'll wrap up this video. Again, I should have said at the beginning there's no gameplay, but people who are watching this series, I think they know by now that there isn't gameplay. But anyway, we have 3 yellow decks for you to look at as always, and this time they will be linked. I'm sorry, the blue ones only just got linked in the description below. I completely forgot to link them. These ones will be linked straight away now. Anyway, we're going to kick off first with blue, yellow Valks. And the reason I want to look at this is because you've already seen a Valkyrie deck. You know what a Valkyrie deck is. Now, why would you splash yellow into it? Trust me, splashing a tiny bit of yellow that's in this deck. Look at that. Look at all, sorry, you can't see. There we go. You look at this tiny bit of yellow here. This tiny sprinkling of yellow is very, very strong, okay? There's only 4 yellow cards in the bloody deck. It just adds a little bit extra to it, okay? Now, this is a more expensive version of the Valkyrie deck you saw last time. The Valkyrie was a rainbow deck. This is a Journey of Souls deck, okay? So this is you can see here, you got Magnus, you got Ingrid, you got your Orbital Jamming Satellite, you've got your Braggy Runesinger, your Kara, you've got your mythic cards that are very powerful, that are big late game. You got your enchantments, all that stuff to kind of keep the late game going. And then you've got your yellow here for more control. Yarnavirus gives blight. And then adjacent minions also get blight. You got Satellite to suppress, another control card. Poxbringer that only does 1 damage, but it gives blight 2. Again, it's control. Bulwark, which gives a minion armor 1, plus 2 health, armor 1, and draw a card. It's that kind of, not so much life game, but you're keeping the minion live, keeping a board presence up. Along with drawing a card. Now, Bulwark is crazy when you combine it with something like Feign. Feign, a card that fully heals whenever an enemy minion dies. So playing Bulwark on this, it goes to a 2/5 with 1 armor. They need to be doing 6 damage on this card on turn 3 to get rid of it. Otherwise, you can just keep swinging, and every time it kills a minion or another minion dies, it goes back to full health. It's a very, very good combo, okay? And it's just this tiny sprinkling of yellow can all of a sudden make these blue Valkyries even more versatile, even more powerful. Yeah, it's a fun deck. It'll be linked below. It's a lot more expensive than the budget Valkyrie. Look, it's 17,000 essence. That's like mid-price for a deck. Competitive decks normally sit between 25 and 35,000 essence. 17,000 essence is slightly cheaper, but it's still, I get, for new players, I get 17,000 essence is a lot. Okay, but keep sticking in the game. Trust me, you'll get to the essence. You'll get the essence that you need in good time. Next, we're going to look at yellow green. Now, yellow green was a deck that I don't want to say plagued because I don't mind it too much. It's better now, the Volition adjustment they made, but this deck is insanely strong. This was the tier 1 deck. It probably is still close to a tier 1 deck. Now it's a combo deck, okay, and it all builds itself around the Volition that we spoke about. Volition here, and then a card down here that I mentioned earlier, Boneyard Abomination, that comes out with 1/1. So basically, you play Boneyard Abomination. He'll come out at a 18/18 possibly, and then you'll play a Volition straight away onto him, basically giving him rush, and you'll do 18 damage to the face, get lethal. That's how you win. It's a card that very much, a deck that builds into a long late game. Clay FG is really important here because it gives you card draw, and you need your card draw to find your Volitions and to find your Boneyard Abomination. Because if you get Boneyard Abomination open in hand, chances are you're burning that card, okay? Bald Mountain is there to keep getting the spells back, so you can get even more Volition play by getting the Bald Mountain back, okay? It's a very long, late, slow game deck, okay? You're not winning by turn 10 or 11 normally with this deck. You're going... I've played games. I played a yellow-green mirror match that honestly went on for nearly half an hour. This is a very, very, very slow deck, okay? Now, you can see here it's a lot more expensive. It's nearly double the price of the blue-yellow Valks, okay? But it's a very strong deck. It's a competitive deck, okay? The Volition nerf is going to make it slightly less powerful because you can't play 3 or 4 Volitions in one turn. I still don't think it's going to really nerf it down. I still think this is probably sitting close to a tier 1 deck. But yeah, it's definitely was one of the strongest decks on ladder recently, and it's Almost went on to, I'm trying to think if it did win no it didn't, sorry. It almost went on to win the Winter Wonder Brawl. It did, however, win Moonlight Masquerade, the first kind of big community tournament that Mythgard hosted by 983 Media. It did win that as Gerren as the pilot. But it's a very strong deck. It's linked below if you want to check it out. This is Krultek's version of it. I say it's Krultek's version. This is very similar to almost any other version I've seen of the deck. That's no disrespect to Krultek, but it's just I got Krultek's version because it was easy to find. And the final deck we're going to look at is Yellow Orange. Now, I don't own all the cards for this deck. That's why it's oranged out. I don't have model. So Yellow Orange is your hyper control deck. This is a very, very control heavy deck. This is a very similar. I played this deck quite a lot against Semper. Semper played this deck a lot. I really struggled with this deck. It has very good card draw with orange. It has very good mid to late game. It has very good like late game value with the likes of like Armageddon Angel. Herald's even more just like control, giving minions blight, scoring, control. We've got card draw. Shadow of our Beast is just a good control card. Lamp is consistency of draw. Ghoul allows you to pretty much control what is in the boneyard because it banishes a minion in the boneyard and full of your heals. You have your Sappos, you have your twins, you have your like. This is a very, very control heavy card. I will say this deck isn't easy to pilot. This is very much a thinking game, a thinking deck. As is the yellow green, but this is not an easy deck to pilot. Like I said, you need to make sure you're playing the right cards at the right times. It's a very strong deck. I often struggle to beat it. And again, it's another late game deck. Yellow's often taking you past turn 10, turn 11, turn 12. So against rush decks, it can be bad because they can play underneath you. But if you play it well and you really grind them out and they have no late game, dropping something like a Sappo down, how on earth does a rush deck deal with that? There's not many ways you can deal with it, okay? And because Sappo's warded, remember, if this is already on the board and Armageddon Angel comes out, because it destroys minions, it doesn't destroy Sappo. Sappo is warded, it is protected. Like I said, this is a very strong deck. It's also a very expensive deck. It's 38,000 essence. 38,000 essence. Nearly a 40,000 essence deck, okay? This deck featured in this exact deck featured in the final of Winter Wonder Brawl. But Gerren was beaten by Caveris, who was running a red-orange deck, which I will show you next time we look at. Probably we're going to look at red next anyway, so we can show you a red-orange deck then. And I'll show you the deck that beat it. But yeah, it's a very strong deck, one I definitely recommend checking out. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up the video. That is going to wrap it up. Hopefully, you found it helpful. We've managed to get this one around 45 minutes again, which I'm happy with. But yeah, that is yellow. That is yellow, like I said, in layman's terms, is control. That's the best way you want to look at it, okay? You want to add some control to your deck, go find some yellow cards and craft some yellow. If you're a control player, if you're coming across from Tessel, you're coming across from Gwent, or you're coming across from, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other card games, like Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering Arena, and controls your jam, yellow's where you're going to want to be looking at first. Yellow's the card you want to be building first, you want to be building around first. Like, yellow-blue isn't a very strong deck, like later on ladder, but yellow blue, like through bronze and silver, is a very good control deck. You've got your AoE of blue, and you have your kind of board presence of blue, or your regen of blue, should we say, with like Feign. But you also then have the yellow, the life gain of yellow, the also AoE or board clear of yellow, the card draw of yellow. So yellow blue is definitely one I recommend playing around with early doors if you are new to the game and you want to try and build some control decks. Other than that, it starts to get expensive. Yellow's an expensive faction, I'm afraid. The good yellow cards are expensive. They're rares and mythics, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Very rarely will you see a competitive yellow deck under 30,000 essence, and that's just because the good cards are the mythics and rares. And it's one of the downfalls of Mythgard. It can take a little while to get that collection, but stick with it and you will definitely get the collection. But anyway, guys, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you so much for checking the video out. If you liked it, hit the like button below so I know that you liked it. If you didn't like it, then I'm very sorry. Let me know in the comments below, and I will try and improve on why you didn't like it last time. But check these decks out. Even if you don't own the cards, just go. You can still import them into your deck tracker, or into your deck builder, and just look at them. Look at the cards. Swap cards out. What can I swap that card with? What can I add this one in? This card gives me life draw. I can't afford that, but maybe I could sprinkle this card in that gives me a little bit less life draw. Stuff like that. Play around with them. It's the best way to improve the game. But anyway, enough waffling now. Until next time, guys, have a great day, morning, evening, whatever it is, where you are. And until then, goodbye.